recently, like literally last week, I started to get a sore throat.
Oh no.
And then I was like, okay, this is like a normal thing. I go to the gym all the time. I'm constantly talking with people literally every single day. I shake hands and talk to like 5 to 10 different people. And I'm like, I'm just coming down with a cold. It's a normal thing. And all of a sudden, I lose hearing in my left ear. Like, not lose hearing, but pressure, right? So
Mm.
even right now, as I talk to you, I have about 65% hearing in my left ear, even now.
Huh.
And I
Mm.
went to the doctor, and I haven't been to the doctors. And some people are going to be like, that's not good, Brandon. But I haven't been to the doctors in like probably 10
Mm.
years. I haven't been to, I'm 28 now. So it's been a
Wow.
long time.
So
So
you're
I
healthy.
went.
You're a healthy guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a healthy guy. Thank God, I'm blessed.
Yeah.
But I went to the doctors and I'm like, I don't know like what I should do because I can't lose my voice because that's
Hmm.
literally how I earn a living is by talking and helping people and stuff like that. And
Right.
she's like, well, here's an antibiotic. She looked at my ears. I actually had an ear infection. And
Mm.
she's like, now, Brandon, if you didn't come in here, then it would have went to the other ear. And I'm like, well, it's a good thing I came in. And she gave me an antibiotic. And there's just it's just not a natural thing to take an
Mm.
antibiotic. And like she explained it to me because I asked her, and I've done gut research and stuff like this, and I've listened to
Mhm.
podcasts with health experts, and they always say you do not want to take antibiotics because yes, it kills the bad bacteria. But even my doctor said, now keep in mind you're going to have an upset stomach throughout this process because
Oh,
it doesn't differentiate what's good bacteria in your gut and what's the bad bacteria. So it just kills all of it.
yeah.
And I was like, well, that doesn't sound too good. Right. And people say that the gut is the second brain. So
Mm.
I'm thinking, is this the best option? And then I literally look at my calendar and I'm like, oh my God, I'm talking to Abby next week. So, as an example, like even for someone like me, let's say that the antibiotic doesn't work. Like,
Yeah.
what would the process look like for me to speak with a practitioner of homeopathy
Mhm.
to find a natural remedy? What does that process look like?
So first I'd say I would hope, in if you were involved with a homeopath, that before you went to get the antibiotic, that and before you went to your medical doctor, unless it's urgent, obviously, if it's really you're in screaming pain, it's really, you do what you have to do. But when you have some kind of a symptom, is to try homeopathic medicine first. If you can, give it 24 hours. And if that doesn't relieve it in some way, shape, or form, then you go to your doctor and you get the antibiotic. It's the idea is that we're trying not to take as many antibiotics. We don't want to become antibiotic resistant. As we get older, there's all kinds of things, even like MRSA that you might have heard of, that is the thing that kills people from going into the hospital. It's a very deep infection. And some antibiotics, if you've had a lot of antibiotics in your life, you're not going to be able to react to it, and it could kill you if you don't
Wow.
have, if you're resistant. So the less antibiotics a person takes, the better off they are for the times that they really, really need them. And
Got
so
it.
the more that you can try to avoid, doesn't mean you always will. Like I'll give an example. My son, the same son that had the ear infections, he had a sinusitis. Sinuses were all full, and it was pretty bad. It was pretty clogged up. And I thought, this poor kid has had so many antibiotics. He was probably about 8 or 9 at this stage. And I was like, if I can avoid this, I would love to do this. So I gave him a remedy. It was called Calibic, calibicromium. It's an over the counter 30C potency, and we gave it to him every day. I don't remember how many times, but it within 3 to 5 days he was so much better. I mean, you could see it gradually getting better, and so we avoided the antibiotic on this. It was just like, phew, yeah, one
Wow.
down,
And
that we don't
what
have to
illness
do.
did he have at that point?
Sorry.
What illness did he have when
He
you
just had a sinusitis, which is basically lots of pressure up here. His nose was plugged. His eyes were kind of swollen from all of the clogged sinuses. Lots of mucus that just
okay.
doesn't come out. I mean, the sinuses are so thin that when they do get clogged, it's if you've ever had a sinus headache,
Yeah.
it's bad. So you want to try to avoid it whenever possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. So that's something that I as a person, I don't even need to visit a practitioner for that. I could do some self-study myself, go
Yeah.
grab the kit and remedy myself in a way before even going to the
Mhm.
doctors.
Yes. Yeah, there's an education. It's not a very simple process, but once you know it, it's like, okay, I now know that I have a kit at home, I have my medicine, I have a couple of books, and now we have the internet. It's a beautiful thing. So even myself sometimes when I'm like, wow, I'm not sure exactly what remedy it is. So I may Google homeopathy for sinusitis, homeopathy for ear infection, homeopathy for ear pain. And you'll come up with, some homeopaths, thankfully, they post on their websites different articles, and there's newsletters and things that pop up. And so you read a couple of them, and a lot of times they list, maybe five, six, seven remedies with descriptions. And after a couple of readings through different websites, you'll say, you know what? This remedy sounds most like me. This is the one I'm going to take,
Yeah.
and I'm going to try that first. And so you can do a lot of self diagnosing as long as you're using remedies that are 30C or lower in potency, which is what you get typically over the counter.
What is C? Like
C is
30C,
is centesimal.
centesimal.
Centesimal. So I'll just there's a lot of education. So
Yes,
if you'll indulge me, I'll give you a little bit of education on that.
please.
So homeopathy is not material medicine. So it's not like vitamin C or echinacea. Although I love when people say, "Oh, I do homeopathy. I do vitamin C and echinacea," and I go, that's naturopathy. That's naturopathic medicine, which is great. It's good to support your system. It's good for, preventing colds or when you have colds to reduce all the inflammation in your body. I said, however, that's not homeopathy because there's material substance in that.
Yeah.
What is homeopathy is when you take something like, and I use an example of coffee because it's a liquid and it's an easy thing to imagine. And so we have a remedy in our arsenal called Coffea cruda. It's made from coffee. And the way that it's made is that you take a drop of coffee and you put it in a cup that has 99 parts full of water and a little bit of solvent, which is sometimes just a little alcohol for preservative. So one drop goes into that. And not only does it get stirred, but it also gets vigorously shaken. So let me do this, like I'm trying to get in the screen. So you pound it. So if this is the bottle, you pound it so that it activates the substance into the water.
Yeah.
That's a 1C. You do that 10 times. Then you
Mm.
take 1 drop of that substance, of that cup, you drop it into another cup that's 99% full, make it 100%. You succuss it 10 times, that's a 2C. You take 1 drop of that, you put it into the next cup, you succuss it 10 times, that's a 3C. So what I'm talking about is in stores, you can get a 6C, 12C, or 30C. And they become highly diluted. And that's what makes homeopathic medicine energy medicine instead of chemical medicine or material substance. So
Wow.
so the 30C is actually what I use more for physical symptoms, things like an ear infection. We would start with that, or a lot of COVID symptoms. I've been given 30Cs, but in my practice, I use 200Cs, 1Ms, which are 1000 Cs, and 10Ms when needed, which are 10,000 Cs. And those are a lot more powerful. Imagine the energy that gets released into the water that many times, and so it's high has higher energy vibration to it. I know
Yes.
that sounds a little woo-woo for people, but I can only tell you that that stuff works.
It's very real.
It's
Yes, it's a
very
very
real, and
ancient healing.
yeah, it's in the early 1800s is when homeopathy came into play. So it's about 220, 30 years that
Yeah.
it's been around and being perfected and used in India and Europe and many other places, but not as much here in the United States.